Why the fuck would Putin shell Wagner positions, man? So dumb. Dude, I don't know what's going on with Vladdy Pooty, okay? I don't know what's going on. I don't know what the fuck's happening. Seems cringe. Seems cringe. That's what I think, okay? I think it's cringe. Vladimir Putin, stop it. Vladdy Poo-Poo, stop it. Prigozhin posts a new audio after 3 hours of silence, claims Wagner has crossed all state borders and is entering Rostov. So far, the claims about an alleged March column haven't been backed by video. We crossed the state borders in all places. Now we are entering Rostov. Units of the Ministry of Defense, or rather the conscripts who were thrown to block our roads, stepped aside. Prigozhin claims, we are not going to fight children. We are only fighting professionals. But if someone stands in our way, we will destroy everything. We are extending our hand. Do not spit in it. We are going forward till the end, he added. So a mutiny or a putiny seems to be happening with the Wagner group, the mercs, the mercenaries. Now, what's really funny about the situation is every aspect of this is a mid-off. Every actor involved is bad. The only people that are involved that are not bad are just the civilians and the people who are like unwittingly forced into battle. That's it. Felix Biederman says, Russia's Wagner mercenary chief Yevgeny Prigozhin said that the Kremlin's rationale for invading Ukraine was based on lies concocted by his perennial adversary, the army's top brass. There was nothing out of the ordinary happening on February 24th. The defense ministry is trying to deceive society and the president and tell us a story about how there was a crazy aggression from Ukraine and that they were planning to attack us with the whole of NATO, says Yevgeny Prigozhin, the Russian Wagner mercenary chief. Felix Biederman says, holy shit, there isn't a serious country in this entire part of the world. Mongolia or the Ottomans need to remobilize and bring the entire region under a new order. I agree. When you're losing the battle and start talking about honor and loyalty at the bloody end and you get that mercenary stare, the Wagner shit is not just a mutiny, it's a call for civil war. Prigozhin called for the military forces to switch sides and also said the same for civilians who want to join. He said they will provide them weapons from armories that they will loot. I can see this being, I have no idea, dude. I just don't know. I don't know what the fuck is going on. My perspective on this has not changed and will not change. They're having a fucking mid-off. They're always having a mid-off. And I don't know what the fuck is going on half the time. A senior American intelligence official tells me both for Ukrainian and U.S. intelligence is a watch and see if they destroy themselves sort of situation. They said it's going to be a long night of watching how this develops, said Wagner is mobilizing and headed towards Moscow. And the OSINT Andes are saying that sources within the Wagner PMC group are claiming that a missile attack launched by Russian forces have targeted one of their field camps in Ukraine, resulting in significant casualties. The leader of Wagner, Yevgeny Prigozhin, has just stated that he believes the attack was ordered by the Russian Ministry of Defense. Americans need to just stop looking at Eastern Europe. Nothing good happens there. Thank you. I agree. That has been my perspective as well. To give context to what's happening, okay, here, we'll get more information from our Georgian correspondent. He says, to give context to what's happening, Prigozhin released a video earlier today talking about how the invasion on 24 was bullshit. Later that day, rumors start spreading that Putin has ordered for him to be arrested. Prigozhin releases a video showing that what he alleges to be a Russian MOD airstrike on a Wagner camp, and then an hour later sends these messages out and basically calls for a civil war rebellion. He has major issues with Shoigu in particular. This isn't a Western conspiracy. Prigozhin has been hinting at this all along. This isn't all of a sudden. I don't understand why the guy who's like, let's use the like rapist prisoners as in the front lines is like, this war is bullshit. Remember, when I said they're having a mid-off, I mean like these are all fucking awful people, right? When liberals post shit like this, what they fail to recognize is like, these guys are fucking awful. Don't bother, Volodymyr. I will burn down Moscow. Like they're like getting fucking excited. They're getting excited at the prospect of like, again, the rapist pedophile military brigade that do insane shit. Like these are the same people that they were talking about how like psychotic they are every time they wanted to move the conversation away from like the potential Nazism within like Ukrainian ranks. They would go, well, Wagner is a bunch of Nazis, which is true. And I use that same example over and over again. But like, it's definitely the war criminal brigade turning on the other war criminal leadership in a country that is effectively doing war crimes, but I guess they have a difference in opinion on how to do the war crimes. Like, I don't know. They're going to be like, listen, Mr. President, Vladimir Putin, I don't like the type of war crime you're making me do. It's not good. I like my own kind of war crime. Another thing to consider is that he did not attack Putin in any way. He says this is his crusade against the RUMOD. He alleges that nothing else will change. He just wants to clean things up in the MOD and then resume the war. But obviously, the Russian government is not cool with this. Yeah, but Shoigu is an extension of Vladimir Putin. That's why he's in the position that he's in. So it doesn't even fucking matter. Saying that he hates the Russian MOD means that he's saying that he hates Vladimir Putin, because the Russian MOD is Vladimir Putin. Their entire job is to be an extension of whatever his needs are, whatever he wants to do. That's what's going on.
On February 24th, nothing extraordinary happened, but the Ministry of Defense was trying to deceive the public, to deceive the president, and say that there was insane aggression.
I think there's a higher likelihood that these dudes, the mercs, get, the mercs turn heel. I don't know anything. I don't know what's going on. I feel like the higher likelihood is that these guys get, maybe a little bit of funding and decide, maybe we'll just help out on the other side or something. You know what I mean? Little Russian January 6th. Worth noting that Prigozhin is more right-wing than Putin. That's like insane to think about. Both fucking suck, but I think Prigozhin would be more likely to carry out multiple genocides. Yeah, they're like, again, it's a race to the bottom, boys. It's a race to the bottom. Why don't we just crowdfund to pay Wagner to fight against Putin? I love liberals because they just they do unironically say stuff like this, not realizing what the implications of such a situation would be. We just said it. We just told you. Like liberals last week were talking about how much of a fucking rapist, genocidal freak the Wagner guys were and how Nazi they were. And now this week they're like, but he hates Putin, so it's good now. It's like, no, they're bad. They're both bad. I don't know what is going to happen. It's like, again, they're having a mid-off. The best possible outcome of this mid-off would be that they just fucking fight each other so much that they, I don't know, can't. They're fighting each other so much that they can't fight in Ukraine, maybe. That would be good. And then Vladimir Putin magically decides okay, I don't have enough resources to handle the Ukrainian conflict at the moment. We're just going to have to deal with this internally. He's not even against Putin. All his messages are about Shoigu and Gerasimov. He does not even talk about Putin. I mean, it also doesn't even fucking matter because the Russian MOD is Putin's extension. He can say that he hates how they've been lying to Putin and Putin is actually good, but that still doesn't change the reality that for example, Shoigu is in the position that he's in, not because of his excellence or military prowess or his unique interest in woodworking. He's in the position that he's in because he's friends and homies with Vladimir Putin. Yeah, but so is Prigozhin, their homies, lol. Yeah, I just don't know. I don't know what that... I mean, everyone is an extension of Vladimir Putin. Even the fucking other hyper-nationalist CIA guy who got poisoned a million times, even he is allowed to exist because of Putin. All opposition is controlled opposition, even including ones that are CIA assets in Russia. Yeah, Navalny, yeah, that guy, the most poisoned man on the planet. Putin runs the fucking show. I think he's pretending to fight only the MOD and not Putin for propaganda purposes. Yeah, the Communist Party of Russia isn't a real proletarian movement. Nope. Exactly. That's a great example of Vladimir Putin's the extension of power and what it represents. Lukashenko and his family have boarded a private jet with an unknown destination. Government officials were seen fleeing Moscow. A 50-kilometer Wagner convoy is heading towards Rostov, and the regular army makes no attempts to stop them. The Russian army is surrounding the Duma building. Here's the thing. Don't say who cares about what's going on. Obviously, this has important implications potentially in the war in Ukraine, right? And that's important. It's going to, a lot of lives. A lot of lives could potentially be lost in the short term, and then some lives could be saved in the long term. It's just entirely dependent on what ends up happening. Shoigu asked Wagner to sign a contract basically ending Wagner and integrating them into the army. Prigozhin refused. That's the TLDR. The big implication for us is the 6,000 warheads in RU. This will have global implications for sure, depending on where it goes. Even if it ends with Vladimir Putin dealing with Wagner or the head of Wagner and like restructuring it and putting it under the MOD, or which would be like the least different outcome than how things have been so far. Even if that's the case, that that's still going to be consequential. Here, let's watch this.
Wagner has issued what sounds like a declaration of war against his country's top military officials. Yevgeny Prigozhin posted an audio message today accusing the army of launching strikes on his own troops. In a separate video clip, he said that Moscow's invasion of Ukraine was based on lies by the military's leadership. His Wagner group spearheaded Russia's capture of the Ukrainian city of Bakhmut last month, a battlefield success that has allowed him to criticize Moscow with impunity. Now, the main target of Prigozhin's tirade is the Russian defense minister.
The defense ministry is trying to deceive the public and the president and tell a story that there was some crazy aggression by Ukraine, and that together with the entire NATO alliance, they were planning to attack us. So the so-called special operation of February 24th was started for other reasons.
This is the equivalent of when U.S. generals would quibbles about the TV on the TV about the Iraq War. The mainstream media and NATO war hawkers are just painting it as a coup. No, it's not the equivalent of that at all. The American military, for all of its fucking faults and failures, is significantly better run than the Russian military. It's significantly better equipped. It's significantly better run. The internal conflicts are oftentimes dealt with behind closed doors. That's not even close. There are circumstances where things are very different in other parts of the world than the United States of America. There isn't any contemporary Western or contemporary American example of like a military, a branch of the military. Like Blackwater guys are not driving tanks to the fucking White House.
As the Ukrainian counteroffensive has got underway, tensions and dysfunction have emerged among the Russians directing the war.
That fucking vid got memed so hard in Russia. Shaigu, Gerasimov! From the New York Times, Prigozhin has issued a new voice recording on the Telegram messaging platform. He says his fighters are approaching the city of Rostov-on-Don, which is in southern Russia near Ukraine, and adds, "We are going farther. We will go to the end." There is no confirmation that Prigozhin's forces are actually approaching Rostov. So there's a lot of footage on Telegram, but man, sure would have been fucking nice if there was still, I don't know, some outlets in Russia that were covering the news. But, I'll keep it $150. There's like people saying military vehicles are seen as like in Moscow, beefing up protection in Moscow. It would take a long ass time, I feel like, for a military convoy to reach Moscow if they're coming all the way from Ukraine. Oh, what I was gonna say is like every aspect of this invasion, defense, counteroffensive, maneuvers from Ukraine, maneuvers from Russia, have always had a degree of confusion, partially pushed by mainstream media and Russian state media that have their own unique interest in creating informational chaos, information war, ladies and gentlemen. But there's also a lot of elements that keep refusing to do what like either side's commanders tell them to do. What do I mean by this? Like the Nord Stream pipeline explosion. It feels like even on the Ukrainian side, they're sometimes just going, nah, we're just going to do whatever the fuck we want to do. Like, fuck you guys. Or even the Crimean Bridge suicide bomb attack. America will every now and then just like release statements from the State Department saying, yeah, we didn't really want Ukraine to do this, by the way, but it seems like they're just operating on their own volition. Now, obviously, America still has a tremendous amount of control over Ukraine. It is very interesting seeing like Ukrainian operatives do whatever the fuck they want to in many instances, even against the better judgment of the American military. And it seems like a similar thing is happening on the Russian side as well. I feel like the Russian level of control, like Putin's level of control over Wagner and everything else happening in Russia is significantly higher than obviously America's control over Ukrainian actions. But I don't know. I just don't know what the outcome of this will be. This seems like a nothing story. Here's the thing. We don't know what the fuck's going on. It seems like the Ukrainian side of the battle on the Russian front, at least, is happening. It's still ongoing. It's not like Russia's offensive posturing has like been turned down, that would indicate some level of retreating and possible like real internal struggle. But that hasn't happened as far as I understand it. So it's a nothing burger now until it becomes a something burger, if that makes sense. As it stands, we don't know. There isn't enough evidence. We just don't fucking know what's going on. Prigozhin has always been in conflict with the Russian army. He is not in the system per se. He was mainly working abroad, making money for Putin by racketeering oil and gas, diamond, gold mines. Putin was most likely using those tensions to his own benefit, as he always does, to serve a role between a referee and a referee between the elite's interests. 25K people is not enough to take multiple cities. No, I know. I don't think that anybody thinks that like they have a shot. I think it's more so about letting the army stand down. They're saying that the Wagner group shot down a Russian helicopter that was shooting at them, but then the Russian MOD is saying that that's not real.
Yevgeny Prigozhin says he is calling off his troops from their march on Moscow, potentially ending what appeared to be a possible coup attempt. Officials in Belarus claim their president, Alexander Lukashenko, had reached a deal with the Wagner boss to halt his troops. Prigozhin says his private army had seized control of Russian military facilities in 2 critical cities, Rostov-on-Don, that's about 700 miles south of Moscow, and the city of Voronezh, about the halfway point on the road to Moscow. President Putin called the actions by Prigozhin a betrayal and a stab in the back to the Russian people.
So it looks like Prigozhin was trying to send a message to the Ministry of Defense and through the head of the Russian armed forces. Those people have been his target since the beginning of this war.
Bro, this is like, it's absolute fucking madness. Like, what happened is so insane. I can't even wrap my head around it. I've been thinking about it a lot, and I don't know how it happened, why it happened. I think everyone that says they get it are coping. One of the funniest aspects of this has been that all the pro-Russia guys who were like going crazy over it. Vladimir Putin's message was insane. It just made zero sense. Here's what it is, okay? Ukrainian counteroffensive starts. Wagner, the PMCs, the private military contractors that are like famous for torturing motherfuckers with like sledgehammers and just being overall brutal and being Nazis for the most part, are in a forward position that gets bombed. Okay, this is the mainstream narrative, and the guy who is leading the Wagner group is a caterer, a caterer turned warlord, basically. I mean, these guys operate in fucking Africa. They operate in Syria. Like, they're mercs, right? And the caterer, Prigozhin, has been very critical of the MOD, not Putin himself, because he's friendly with Putin, but like he believes that the Putin's commanders have been like misleading him, right? He's complaining that he's not getting enough supplies. He's complaining that like they're being left out to dry. He turned around and said, you know what, fuck it. I'm going back into Russia and I'm not stopping until I fucking reach Moscow. That's it. And everyone was like, what? There's no way. He's not gonna do that. Oh no, he actually did. He took like a 50-kilometer convoy of like military weapons and drove it back into fucking Russia from the south. First, they overtook Rostov-on-Don, which is like the southern military post where a lot of the officers and the generals are, where they're basically, it's like it's not the tip of the spear necessarily, but it's where it's the closest point to Ukraine where all of the Russian commanders are. Yeah, it's like the equivalent of San Diego. That's a good take. They turned their fucking convoy around and went over and took down the military command center in Rostov-on-Don with and all the soldiers that were in the city gave up. Meanwhile, while what was going on there, while that was happening, the Russian forces have not stopped bombing Ukraine. So like the war kept going on in Ukraine. It was just that the Wagner group was like, nah, fuck that. Like we're coming to Moscow. Putin has been misled by his generals. We need to do some restructuring. It's absolute bullshit. Meanwhile, while that's going on, all the liberals who are like, these Wagner guys are fucking gross, perverted Nazis, were like, oh, how sick. Which I get. It is kind of funny when you have like your own private mercenaries turn on you and in the middle of a fucking active war, okay? And it's very odd. But it was also odd seeing like liberals be like, you know the guy that's even more right-wing than Vladimir Putin? That's my guy now. They were having a mid-off, a race to the bottom, and liberals were just like, hell yeah, dude. Hell yeah, Wagner. Keep popping off. No one said that. Yes, they did. What are you talking about? Were you not on Twitter? Originally, Prigozhin was, stating that he's like not an enemy of Putin, He's actually pro-Putin. He just hates the MOD and he needs to restructure it because they're lying to Putin. They're taking advantage of Putin, blah, 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 right? And then he decided, no, we're actually going to keep going to Moscow. And Vladimir Putin basically called him treasonous and said that the leadership last night, or at least last night my time, said that the leadership of Wagner were engaging in high treason, but the soldiers the other mercs that were just following orders, they can defect and they won't be harmed, but the top leadership will get some of the worst punishments. Oh yeah, all the pro-Russia Patsock Andes must have lost their shit when Putin said this was comparable to 1917 law. Isn't 1917 was bad? Yeah, Putin came out as big time czarist. That was cool. Don't know where that came from. That just like literally came from nowhere. What happened to all the fucking MAGA communists that are like patriotic socialists and shit? Are they no longer committed to international socialism? Is that what's going on? What is important to point out is that Prigozhin among Russian nationalists has much bigger figure in respect than Putin does, but Wagner has just 25,000 ex-prisoners. There's no shot they will get any kind of success. Also, Prigozhin had big hopes for the support of Air Force General Surovikin, but it turned out he is not on Prigozhin's side. Everyone is on Putin's side, including Prigozhin. I still don't know what the reason for what this was. I don't really know how this happened. I don't really know why this happened. I am a firm believer that, everything that happens in Russia is done with the prior go-ahead and knowledge of Vladimir Putin, no matter how insane it is. There's no way Putin approved it. It makes him look insanely weak. There's now Russian civilians chanting Wagner and praising them. I mean, I don't know how much of that is what you've seen on fucking Twitter. I don't know. I legitimately have no fucking clue. And I'm not going to sit here and act like I get it. I don't think anyone understands it. I don't think Russian people understand it. I don't think a single person knows what the fuck's going on. Quite possible the U.S. intelligence community knew more about what Prigozhin was planning than the Kremlin. U.S. intelligence officials briefed congressional leaders known as a Gang of Eight in recent days on potentially concerning Wagner movements and equipment buildups near Russia. Two people told me. It was unclear what was going to happen and when, however. Wagner shot down a bunch of Russian aircraft and killed some airmen, so I don't think it was a fake. Yeah, I mean, it feels like they, maybe Prigozhin isn't, maybe he isn't being dishonest. He literally is fucking annoyed with the MOD. Maybe that's why he wanted to do this. I don't know. Is this just going to be a repeat of the coup in China last year that ended up being nothing but Western dreaming? Dude, no. This was very real. Like, don't make no mistake, okay? I always tell you when, like, Western media is, like, hyping some shit up. But this wasn't nothing. Like, this was still a very serious thing. In my opinion, the least impactful reason for why it happened was maybe, like, money. Or what he's literally fucking complaining about, which is more funds for the Wagner soldiers and replenishing their munitions and whatnot. Or the most impactful reason why it could have happened, this is again speculative, is because he like legitimately is either getting paid by the CIA or wants to actually take over the MOD in its entirety, or even take down Vladimir Putin or something. It was definitely an attempted coup. I don't think it was like bullshit. People say China is going to fall apart tomorrow every fucking day. It's entirely different than that. This was a real thing. No, it wasn't, Hasan. Bro, come on. They put fucking... Wagner was pissed about Bakhmut and getting shot by Russia. Everything is cool now. I think he's just mad about Bakhmut. No, it wasn't, Hasan. Bro, even if you're mad about getting fucking bombed, okay, by the Russian Air Force, turning a fucking convoy around and saying you're going into the heart of Moscow and like actually overtaking the Southern Military Command Center is not normal. Like that, you can't just act like this is something that happens all the fucking time. It does happen all the time throughout history when wars are being lost. That's not a fucking normal situation at all. Come on, dude. I think this is also important. The MOD made PMC sign a contract that disbands them and integrates them into the army, and Prigozhin didn't want to lose his power at the head of Wagner. It's the detail everyone's missing. It seems like it's a power struggle internally within the Russian forces between the private military leadership and also the conventional forces within the Russian military. Here's what OSINT Defender is saying. According to Russian state media, major changes to the leadership of the Russian Ministry of Defense, including changes to the current defense minister Sergei Shoigu and the Army Chief of General Staff Valery Gerasimov, have reportedly been agreed upon in order to stop the march of the Wagner PMC group towards the capital of Moscow. These negotiations have also reportedly included the assured security of the Wagner group. These negotiations are also reported to have included a stipulation that the majority of Wagner PMC forces will be redeployed out of Russia and Ukraine to Africa. Africa, bro, Russia's actually going to lose? No, Wagner already operates mostly in Africa and Syria. What do you mean? Guys, they're mercs. They were already predominantly operating in Africa, so he's just sending them over there. Yeah, Wagner owns gold mines all throughout Africa and does human trafficking.
He indeed himself was pictured in an SUV wearing a baseball cap in that city. It seems driving out and being cheered by locals. So that answers one question the Kremlin weren't able to answer themselves. Where is Yevgeny Prigozhin? He seems to be leaving Rostov. But the Kremlin also offered a very elaborate series of solutions to how today has finally come to an end.
The part I don't understand is why this dude is getting dapped up by not just like old people, but young people too. I don't know if that's like a commonly shared sentiment or whatever. I don't know if it's like where he is in Russia and like their own political perspective or whatever. But it is odd. They are the heroes of Bakhmut, and yes, it's common because he's epic to them. Tired of the regime, just want other people in power, even though they're much worse. Like my adoring public, yo, it's him, the Coup Meister. We love you, sir. Good luck in Belarus. Me, unaware that I've just been fed 50 times the lethal dose of polonium in a meatball sub. Aw, shucks. You fans are the ones who really make the Wagner PMC great. As a local, I'd say it's more likely going to be younger people that would like him. Older people see him as a thug gang leader mostly. Keep in mind he was in jail for multiple offenses, only amnestied by fucking Gorby government. The craziest thing is that Prigozhin said that the special military operation in Ukraine was a mistake and a cash grab for the elites, which is a big no-no to say in Russia. So it's weird because, like, he's ultra-nationalist. So what the fuck does that mean? I remember hearing about that and not fully understanding it. Like, it's not like he's anti-war. He's a fucking mercenary. I don't think he said it like that. And I think that was a mistranslation or wishful thinking by people who wanted to present him as like a possible anti-Putin, anti-war, or anti-war in Ukraine guy. He's an ultra-nationalist who's upset at the way that the war is being waged. Like, he wants to do it better. Like, he wants to be more ruthless. He wants to be more efficient. He wants to, you know what I mean? It's not like he's saying like, oh, we need to do peace, actually. I want to go back to fucking catering. He's like, why haven't you given me hammers to kill civilians with? I don't understand it. We need more hammers on the fucking front lines. It wasn't a mistranslation. I heard him say it. Yeah, I think he said like, nothing special happened on the 24th of February, and it was started under bullshit pretenses, specifically not because of some tactical interests, but specifically so that Shoigu could get a second medal, and that all of Putin's MOD are basically leading him astray. They're like lying to him.